I did some asking around our chapter when we were doing this conference, and I just I said to multiple warriors, hey, when do you feel most coached at Colorado Springs? Who's someone that pushes you? Who's someone that really gets you to do things that you didn't think was possible? Who do you enjoy? And my brother's name, Andrew, came up multiple times, and I know that about him. He pushes me, he pushes others, and so it wasn't a surprise to find his name being brought up over and over. What I did is I went to Andrew and I said, okay, I know you've been a coach for a long time. He's been doing this for a decade now. So yes, he's a great coach, but I specifically just wanted to know what's on your mind on the coaching floor. What's on your mind on the coaching floor? Like when you step out from Devo and the clock is going, what are you thinking about? And within like a minute, he gave me 3 C's. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, man, that sounds like a conference talk. Let's do that. But here's the thing. The first word that he shared, I have been seeking to apply in my classes when I coach, and I will say in ways it has transformed my coaching. I've been doing this for 7 to 8 years now, and just the first word was like, whoa, this is so cool. This is so fun. So I hope that it's practical. I hope it's something that you just kind of enjoy and you're able to apply, and then our questions will kind of drive it home. With that, this is my brother, Andrew Krause.
All right. Test. Tell me if this is too hot. I'll move it away. I know the over-the-ear seems to be pretty hot. We good? Yeah. Okay, cool. I don't know about y'all, but man, I talk loud. Let's see if I can get that a little further away. There we go. That practicum, that lights me up. That right there is like, I just come to life, y'all. Like that is so much, and that's what we get to do on the floor day in, day out, to work with people, fine-tune movements, and I absolutely love coaching. Let me pray real quick, just to focus, because my brain's like, I'm still on like back squat and mobility stuff, conversations. I'm gonna just pray this in real quick. So Father, Jesus, thank you so much for just your heart here that's being represented at Trinity Fitness, the life change that is taking place in each of us individually as warriors and trainers and coaches and facility directors. And Lord, for every chapter that's being represented, all the lives that you're touching through movement, Lord, through group fitness as a part of our mission statement at Trinity Fitness. And Lord, we pray that we just walk away with some practical things to be able to talk through and to be able to apply in our chapters to give us the confidence to basically just connect with people, Lord. So we just want to give you this time in Jesus' name. Amen. I had the opportunity to, I'm going to move this out of the way, to go to the CrossFit Games in August. And it was it was an incredible experience to be able to watch all these high caliber athletes moving very well. I had a table out there. Got a chance to be in the athlete area. I got to rub shoulders with people. It was great. And while I was out there, I was like, man, I want to ask this. I knew I had this seminar coming up and I was going to be speaking on these 3 C's. And I was like, man, let me ask some other individuals who have been doing this a long time, what they found effective, what makes an effective coach. The most impactful conversation I had out of all of these different individuals was with Jason Khalipa. I grabbed his ear for a minute. California Bear, 2008 Games winner, like super great guy. And he listed off several things, but the first thing he listed off was, what makes an effective coach is your ability to connect and show that you care. So connection is the big thing that, like, man, I was like, man, what a powerful word, to be able to connect with people, right? To be able to get them to buy into what it is that your ministry or what fitness has to offer for them, and this concept of connection. So the overarching C, if you put underneath the 3 C's that we're gonna go over, is our ability to connect. And so we want to figure out ways to connect on the group fitness floor, right? Because that's where we have an hour to spend time with people. How do I make that as effective as possible in this concept of how do I connect with people? And a brief story, I had another high caliber coach that he coaches here in Colorado Springs. Turns out, I mean, just great athletes, like on the floor, people that are setting national records and different things. And we were talking, as I normally do with people on my table. And I was just like, man, Joe, like, what is it that you love about coaching? What is it that just brings you to life? And he's like, you know what, Andrew? It's really interesting because when we grow up and we're in grade school, middle school, you got that coach there, you got sports, and they're saying, man, like, you got this. Let's grow. Let me push you to the next level. I see greatness in you, right? I see greatness in you. Then you get into high school sports, and you got that coach, and they're pushing you, and they're like, man, I see greatness in you. I see so much potential in where you could be and where you're going. And then if you're lucky enough, which I was not, you make it into collegiate sports. And then you got a coach again saying like, no, like we're taking this to the next level. I see great, we're gonna push you. But by and large, as soon as we become adults, we jump into the workforce, you become a parent and you have kids and you're in the adult stage of life, there's not that person coming alongside saying, I see greatness in you. I see potential in you. Oh man, like no, you're not done yet. Do you know how powerful that is to be able to connect with somebody and say, no, like, this is, I see greatness in you. I'm gonna just hammer that home because, man, that right there, that is life-changing for the individual who thinks that they're not there yet. And then all of a sudden you get that 50-year-old mom who's like, you know, hey, like, my kids, I'm an empty nester. But then you're in there like, no, like, you should try out this competition. And they're like, well, I don't know how to get there. Well, hey, I'm gonna walk with you through that. And then all of a sudden they're like, man, I have this sense of like belonging again, right? Like I want to belong to something. I want somebody to carry me there. So the first C I want to talk about is this concept of challenge. So a challenge, to be able to challenge the athlete on the floor. And so the first thing that I do, and I told Jason, when I walk on the floor, the first thing that I'm looking to do is to bring a new challenge to the athlete. And that's going to be autonomous to each individual, right? That's going to be where this person is in their fitness journey is going to be unique to them. But this idea of going over there and pushing somebody and saying, hey, like, let's try this. Let's go to this next level. And I have this reputation of being that guy in Trinity Fitness that loves to take people to the very uncomfortable places in their fitness journey of like, oh, let's take this to failure even. Like, I forget everything else. I'll pause. I'll sit there and I'll be like, hey, like, I want to see what you really got in you, right? I love being able to take that athlete and then to come alongside and say, man, you have so much more in you than you realize. This concept of challenge. There's a particular warrior, and she's now one of our coaches. I remember 6 years ago, she was working out here at Trinity Fitness, Colorado Springs, and she was doing push-ups on her knees, and it was a longer battle that had a lot of push-ups, and I was like, hey, I don't want you to do push-ups on your knees. I want this proper, we talk about that proper spinal alignment, good position, right? And you're doing the full push-up. I'm like, even if it takes you all day, we're gonna do negative onlys. You're gonna get down there and you're gonna just negative, get back up, negative, get back up. And she took the challenge on. And to this, and then I remember talking to her maybe 2 weeks after that, and within me as a coach, she was struggling. I'm like, hey, you know what? You're pretty fatigued right now. You can go to your knees. She's like, no, I'm going to do this. I don't care how long it takes. And she never went back to doing a knee push-up. And to this day, I think if I asked her right now from behind the sound booth, she could drop down and give me 50, right? Love you, Jules. And so this impact that you can have on an individual to take them and just dramatically change kind of that journey for them. And with appropriate challenge, right? So when we challenge somebody appropriately, it brings this need for correction. So that would be the second C, correction. Okay? So correction is huge. So the first thing I seek to do when I jump on the floor is I want to figure out who on the floor I can challenge, where I can meet them, where I can challenge an individual to do something if they've been doing ring rows, but I'm like, man, you're past all that, you've gone all the way down. Okay, now we're gonna go to negative only pull-ups. And we find this ability to like hone in on an individual. And then when the challenge is appropriate at an appropriate level for the athlete, it will automatically demand the need for correction. right? Because their skill level is being tested. We have this really cool thing in our trainer's manual. It says intensity and skill, intensity, technique. You're trying to balance that out constantly, right? Challenge, correction. The coach is obligated to be the athlete's mirror, y'all. You're obligated to be your athlete's mirror. So your goal is to be there and to be able to bring this healthy correction in a great practical way, okay? And I'm going to put it this way. First of all, nobody wants an apathetic coach, right? Nobody wants a disengaged, apathetic coach. I have 3 boys, 1 girl, and 1 beautiful wife who has a great voice. And one of my boys played soccer this last year over the summer. And this coach was the most disengaged, apathetic coach, gave little to no instruction leading up to the game season. And my son, throughout that whole season, walked off the field almost after every game, just crying, just dejected, just because they didn't win a single game. There was no correction or coaching, or there was no encouragement. And that was very hard for me as a parent, as a father. I wanted to jump in there, but that wasn't necessarily my place and I could work with him one-on-one, but that apathy was just trickled over into him. He didn't want to necessarily play anymore. I have another son who played baseball. His coach, and he was very engaged. Both these coaches that tag team this team, I mean, they were correcting. They're like, no, here's your mechanics, step through. Like, they're walking them through all of the different things and bringing correction and then saying, oh, good job. Okay, let's try this. No, like, let's get that position right. Measure yourself out from the plate. And man, he had the best season ever. He absolutely loved it. And now he's like, man, like, baseball's my sport, right? And in correction, to be able to bring that appropriately, it can be a challenge, right? I was talking with one of our other coaches, and I don't know if you guys have ever found that movement that is just super hard to, like, how do I correct, right? How do I correct the movement pattern? And we were talking about the kettlebell swing. And she's sitting there, and she's like, I went up, I gave them some cues, I told them what to do, and then I come back around, float in the room, it's like, it just got worse. Like, man. And then it's like, then you go back another time, and then the person's sitting there, and they're like, especially if you get that church athlete where it's like, this is like the no movement in life, like that's just not appropriate at the gym. And we're trying to say, it's all in the hips, right? And it's like, and this idea of correction is another big one. In order to be able to correct appropriately, you have to be able to identify what went wrong and know how to fix it, right? Have the confidence to fix it. So correction, to be able to know what went wrong and then how to fix it. And I'm going to submit to you that comes in 2 practical ways. 1, knowledge plus personal experience equals your ability to correct. Knowledge plus personal experience. You have to have knowledge and confidence in the knowledge that you were given on this is what it should be, this is what it should look like, and then personal experience, reps on the floor. And this is where I would put out to you, man, if you feel like you have a hard time correcting movements on the floor, then continued education is huge. Just investing back into yourself, spending time with other coaches, working and correcting you. I'm getting back into some, trying to figure out the Olympic lifts. And so I have my brother watching me from the side. And he's like, okay, here's all I want you to focus on right now. And all of a sudden, the lift feels better. It was like, whoa, I just hit a PR. And that's life-giving, y'all, to be able to bring a proper amount of correction. I know that we're going to have some resources that we're going to put out there for you guys that to increase your ability to absorb some knowledge. So if you're looking for that knowledge and you're hungry for that and you want to grow in your coaching, I know Jason's going to present something on some knowledge resources. And then personal experience, right? That was one of the things that even Jason Kalipa said was like, when it comes to correction, reps, the trainer, repetition is the greatest teacher, right? Practice makes, not perfect, permanent. Practice makes permanent. And so you want to drill reps. Being a coach is just as much a skill as doing a squat clean or a thruster, but you're wearing all of these different hats, right? A lot of times we feel like we're juggling all of these hats. And if you've ever felt like that, it's like, man, sometimes I walk in and I feel like I'm just wearing the hat of like, I'm queuing, I'm clock managing, I'm cheerleading. And sometimes we kind of limit ourselves to and now I will say we do a great job with those things at Trinity Fitness. I mean, I've been to multiple gyms here in Colorado. I've been doing this for multiple years. And every time somebody comes into the gym at Trinity Fitness, they're like, man, you guys, your setup, demo, execute. I feel confident every time I walk in. I'm a new warrior. And they feel confident, they feel comfortable. They're like, I just don't know. I'm like, no, don't worry. Every single person, you're going to get the same thing every time. And they're like, oh, good. I'm not going to feel dumb when I'm like trying to figure out what this movement is, right? Our warm-up, proficient. Like that standard warm-up that we've been using, we get so many compliments on that. So there's a ton of things that we're doing, but if you've ever felt like, man, I'm just a cheerleader today. Like I just like good job, keep going, y'all. Like, all right, 3, 2, 1, go. And that's the only things that you feel like you're doing. Like how am I being effective? And sometimes just going on with the mindset of I want to be able to challenge and bring this appropriate amount of challenge for this individual or this athlete, and then to be able to bring the correction along with it. And people desire that. People love when you come up and you're doing this and you're watching and you're taking the time. My favorite thing, I love videotaping the athlete. Hey, let me videotape the next round. And they'll pause and they're like, who cares if it's an AMRAP for like as many reps as possible? You're like, let's get this one on video. Okay, let's break it down. And just to take the time to be able to do that shows that you care, right? Shows that you care. So challenge, correction, and then the third C is compliment or celebrate. Compliment. The power of a compliment is huge, right? Especially once you've taken that athlete from, hey, I've challenged them appropriately. You said, man, I see greatness in you. Let's rise to the occasion. Let me walk with this, I don't know, whatever, with you, right? And then you bring that correction. You're like, okay, here we go. Let's try this. And then all of a sudden, they only have so much capacity to learn in a given hour, right? So then it's like, man, like, okay, that looks good. Let's go. That looks great. Do it again. That looks great. Do it again. And you're sitting in that complimenting is a powerful thing. Another way of just offering a genuine compliment. In order to offer a genuine compliment, you have to be outside yourself. Think of a time that somebody just paid you a compliment recently. If somebody paid you a compliment recently, how did it make you feel, right? Probably made you feel good. Increased some self-esteem. That sense of like, okay, I just connected with that individual. I don't know why, but it's like, wow, like they noticed me, right? They noticed me. Maybe it could be something as simple as, dude, and obviously be genuine, but like, love those shoes. Like, I wish they had them in my color, whatever. Something's very, very simple to walk the floor and connect, especially when you know that there's athletes out there, and our goal as coaches is to create that sense of belonging, right? And this is just trying to find a practical way of doing that, of like, okay, when I'm on the floor, how do I create that sense of belonging? Well, my first thing, I'm going to try to, as a coach, I'm going to call them to go higher. I'm going to tell them I see greatness. I'm going to challenge them appropriately. And then I'm going to bring that correction. And then, man, once they're kind of at that capacity, or maybe they just come in dejected, they're complimenting, I can compliment them, or we can celebrate their wins. We have a gentleman in our gym who just started coming maybe 4 weeks ago, him and his son, and he's got some injuries. He's got some knee and hip stuff, and so his gait is a little off. And I mean, he's been through the ringer probably physically, and he just ran his first 200 meters unbroken, right? And he came in with tears in his eyes, y'all. And then we have this super cool thing that I don't know who put it up. We got this really obnoxious bell. I don't know if you guys saw the bell over at TS House. And we ring that thing, and I think there was another gym that maybe started, and that was like, man, we love ringing that PR bell. Like, I just did this, right? And then to be able to celebrate that. And what's great about this concept of complimenting and celebrating is that when you're if you think about it, it's creating a culture of praise. Who doesn't want to be a part of that, right? You get an outsider in, and all of a sudden they're like, man, like they're celebrating, Angie over here who just did her first 200-meter run, and it's like that's only 200, but everybody's like, yeah, let's go. And everybody's like, man, like this is different. I want to be a part of this. I feel like I can belong to this as well, right? Do you get that coach that comes alongside and he's like, man, I see greatness in you. Tell me, and you having that personal conversation, right? Like, what is it? What are your goals? Okay? Tell me about your goals. Tell me about things that you want to accomplish this year. And you're like, okay, cool. All right, now, have you ever considered this? Man, I think you got this. We can go there together, right? And then bringing that appropriate amount of correction. And then, again, knowledge plus personal experience, drilling those reps. And what's so cool about the correction side of things, y'all, is that when I can't figure something out, I usually have a second coach on the floor where I'm like, hey, can you give me some insight? Like, what's going on over here with John's, squat? Like, I can't figure this out. And then they can come over and you guys can tag team that. You're learning together. Hey, let's try this, right? And that's okay if you don't have it all together. It takes time. It takes repetition. So those are the 3 C's. Again, Jason just asked me real briefly, he's like, hey, can you just share on things that you found to be effective? And the first thing that I do when I seek to get on the floor, I think that's the primary thing that if I was to have you guys walk away with anything, is this concept of challenge. People want to be challenged, right? And I had a chart, but I didn't put it up there, but having that appropriate flow chart where they're challenged appropriately, they need you to correct them because they are challenged appropriately. And then they feel like, man, because if I'm appropriately challenged and I need correction, I know that I'm making progress. That's what people, they want to feel like they belong. They want to feel like they're making progress. And so just that mindset of like walking on the floor and just like, man, like who can I challenge today? Who can I challenge it, and obviously safely and appropriately, right? Not every athlete is going to be the one that you want to say, hey, let's take this set to failure and like do lunges until you can't move appropriately anymore. But those are my 3 C's. Obviously, and again, the big overarching C is your ability to connect on the floor through challenge, correction, complimenting and celebrating. So super simple. I know what we're going to do now is we're going to break out or no, you guys are at your tables because you mixed them up already, right? He mixed them up. I missed that. I was having a conversation. And so just around the table with even maybe half of the people there, because you can even break this up even a little bit less. So maybe split your table in half, 3 to 4 people. Which of the 3 coaching hats comes most naturally to you and why? So talk about that. Which do you want to work on as a coach and why? And then what do you believe limits you from being a better coach? And what would be an impact if you what would be impacted if you just improved that one area? So we're going to keep those up there, and then we're going to basically give you guys about 15 minutes or so to hash that out, to talk through some things practically, and yeah, go time.